Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hello there, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who loves a rematch. It's Frank. How are you today?
I was going to do hello there. Now I don't have anything.
You could do it like Mo from Smart Guy. Hello there.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
General Kenobi.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah.
That would have been fine.
Come here, my little friend.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's going to be filled with terrible impressions this
Yeah.
episode. I can already tell.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible. Anyway, Frank, we are here to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Disney Plus limited series. But before we do that, let us discuss our beer. What are you drinking today?
Yes, our beer. I am pulling out an old mainstay, Blue Moon.
Oh, my.
Good old Blue Moon Belgian white.
Yeah, Blue Moon. It's great. But there's nothing wrong with a Blue Moon.
No.
No, nice orange wedge. Anybody have any orange slices for my Blue Moon? Well, I am glad you're drinking that because I'm also drinking a rather, I don't want to say basic beer, but I am drinking a Corona extra because we're talking about the King, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Nice.
So I thought I'd have a
crown.
King beer,
nice.
A crown, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we know what those taste like. People know what those taste like. So
great. The answer is great. They taste.
The
great.
answer is great. Exactly. The answer is very good. Both of them. Now, Frank, we had long been anticipating the return of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, really since forever.
For 17 years.
Basically, I would have watched more after Revenge of the Sith. We all thought that there was going to be no more Star Wars after that. But with The Force Awakens, people were like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Force Ghost, Ewan McGregor coming back. And we have literally been anticipating Ewan McGregor coming back since The Force Awakens.
Yeah, and he's been asked about it in countless interviews, and he's always been cagey about it and, sort of like, I can't talk about it, but I would love to if they ever wanted me back.
Yeah.
And now...
I know. And now here he is. I mean, technically he did come back for Force Awakens because he goes, "These are your first steps."
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we do get a bit of him in there. But Frank, here we are. It was 6 episodes. Deborah Chow was the showrunner, and she directed every episode. She had done a few episodes of The Mandalorian and kind of moved off into here. Ewan McGregor was back. Obviously, Hayden Christensen came back as Darth Vader. 1 through 6, where does this kind of sit for you in the Star Wars pantheon of products? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Is it middle of the road? Is it top tier? What is it for you?
It's pretty top tier for me. It's this and The Mandalorian are my top. My top tier. I really, really enjoyed.
When
this
you
show.
say that, you also mean A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back or whatever are also in that top tier.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, how does it rank against the movies? I kind of put them in a different category, sort of. But,
okay. But yes, I think it is as good, if not in some ways better than some
I'd put it
aspects.
I'd put it in the same level of quality as original trilogy, and probably better than the prequels and the sequels, but just below the original trilogy. How about that?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I saw a tweet online that says my new favorite Star Wars trilogy, and it's Revenge of the Sith, Kenobi, and A New Hope. And I was like, yes,
Nice.
like that actually might be my new favorite. That's like my new favorite trilogy. I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, the character.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and so I thought the show was great. There were some weak spots early, I think, and I think every episode just got stronger. And so there, maybe not necessarily better all the way through, but I thought that as like Obi-Wan regained his mojo, the show itself also got better.
Yeah.
And so just like people felt more comfortable in who they were and what they were doing, and it was by the time we get to episode 6, it was like really like top tier Star Wars content. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
I feel like this now. This is now like what I really want to do is I want to watch this series and then Rogue One and then A New Hope like back to back. Like experience that.
Experience this era of Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. No. I can get behind that. I mean. Is there a reason that you would do this and then Rogue One and A New Hope? Why Rogue One?
Chronologically, because Rogue One then fits in right after this before A New Hope.
Oh, because Solo is technically Solo is technically after this.
Yeah, but Solo doesn't fit into it doesn't tell the same story. It's like it's a side adventure. It's a side quest.
That's true. And I guess Rogue One, because it ties directly into A New Hope.
Exactly.
You would continue that forward.
Like you have Vader in this, and then in Rogue One, and then in A New Hope, right? Like,
and I would. Yeah,
and
I think
Bail Organa and all that stuff.
Sure, I think I would take that a step further then, and I would start with Revenge of the Sith.
Sure,
and then but truly, I mean, like you don't really get the sense of their relationship, so maybe I would start with Attack of the Clones.
But then you got you better start with
who's that Qui-Gon guy? You better go backward and just and just you got to start from the beginning.
You know what?
I was going to watch all.
You know
of
what, Edna? Hold my calls. I'm just going to watch Star Wars all day.
I mean, there's so much Star Wars content now. You might watch it for a few days.
It's going to be more than a day, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. So, Frank, I have some talking points that I want to run down here, which I never do. But just so we actually remember to talk about a few things. Let's first talk about, let's go backwards. This is going to be no order spoilers for the whole thing, 1 through 6, because these episodes will come at random and it'll be all over the place. But here we go. Qui-Gon Jinn is back, baby. Yes. We've actually been waiting for this since Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
I always felt that it was this weird, like, oh, teach him to attune, like teach him to commune with him. I will teach you, and and basically Yoda's lesson amounted to just wish really hard that he will show up, and maybe he will.
That's true. It's true. The poor guy had to work on it for 9 years.
Oh man,
yeah, but a lovely cameo at the end of the show. I was so glad to see him. I wasn't sure if Obi-Wan kept trying to talk to him, so I figured he was going to show up. There's going to be a payoff for that. But I wondered if
teleplayed.
Yeah, for sure. But I wondered if he would be on camera or if he would just be a voice.
Oh, interesting. That's weird. I didn't think of that he would just do a voice. I thought he would show up or not show up at all. Because, and the only reason I didn't think he'd show up at all is not because what the show was doing, but because just last week I saw an interview with Liam Neeson where he's like, "Nah, I don't really like television. I'm more for movies." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess he would never do TV. Maybe he isn't in Kenobi."
Yeah. Throwing us off the scent.
Dang him, dang the man. So it was lovely to see him back, but I just like that. It's not necessarily talked about on the show, but that Qui-Gon is the first Jedi in a long time to attune with the Force so much that he becomes a Force ghost.
Yes,
and I think that's important. I think that's important. So, you wonder why only a certain amount of Jedi show up, to talk to Rey. In Rise of Skywalker, it's not people. It's not thousands of Jedi through the centuries or anything like that. They're all there, but only a select number in recent Jedi history were able to transcend that experience, and that really started with Qui-Gon.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was such a, he was such a, like, if all the other Jedi were very sort of by the book and very sort of strict about their practices, he was more sort of hippie, loosey-goosey, sort of like, I believe in the living force. Like, it's more of a thing you feel, not a thing you study, like.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense that he would be the one to sort of crack the code and figure out how to become one with the force in that way that he could, become more powerful than you could possibly imagine, as Obi-Wan will later put it.
Exactly.
And it's cool that, from him figuring that out, it carries through to Obi-Wan and then Yoda and, all those other Jedi being able to do that.
And I just like that Obi-Wan hasn't figured that out yet in this 9-year stretch, because his confrontation with Vader, he is not more powerful than Vader could possibly imagine at this point. He really barely makes it out with the skin of his teeth, and we'll come back to that.
He does kick Vader's ass, though.
He does, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah, sure.
As is. So Leia's, just little Leia, just in general. I thought she was adorable.
I loved her.
Me too.
Like, she was so Leia from the start.
Yes, she really was. I thought she just did. She captured Princess Leia's essence, like the looks and the vibe. Like, it's not just about the lines that she says, but there's an authority to her, even as a 10-year-old, that I just really appreciated. And it's funny because by the end of the show, Qui-Gon, in a very tear-jerky moment, is like, these are the qualities you get from your mother. These are the qualities you get from your father. And in my mind, I'm like, Luke is just such a wet noodle. He got all their worst qualities, where Leia gets all the best qualities. Like, obviously, she gets the maybe over assertiveness, and the stubbornness of either both of them, maybe. But Luke really has to struggle through some of the worst parts of himself, and Leia's just like, I'm freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Right from the start. And I loved that. I love that scene at the end, but I like that she matures because of Obi-Wan. And it gives me good reason. I've been thinking about why they named their son Ben.
Oh, yeah.
Since Force Awakens came out. And I know it was I'm sure it was arbitrary and a whiteboard decision. And, Ben sounds good. Ben's already in the Star Wars universe. But you don't name your children out of nowhere.
Right.
A lot of times you don't say I just like the name. A lot of times it comes from something to honor somebody. And I love that, that he is the person that really helped her become who she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even from her, I'm pretending to dress royally or something, she jerks to this is what I've decided to wear. Mm-hmm. This is who I am. Just loved it. Loved it all.
I loved that conversation that, these are the qualities you get from each of your parents. I loved that because it comes after the confrontation with Vader, and after he's had that confrontation and realized that his friend is no longer there, it's like he's done grieving in a way, and he's like, I'm finally ready to talk about my dead friend, and now he's like come to terms with the fact that his friend is dead, and now let me sort of eulogize him. It had that sort of power to it of I am going to talk about your dad.
That's very interesting because he thought he killed Anakin.
Yes.
So he carried the weight of that decision, of that murder for years and years and
long
years.
Time.
So to see at the end where Vader says, I am not your failure. I killed Anakin Skywalker. One, Anakin technically is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that alone is an alleviation. But to know that that fight that they have, only a Sith speaks in absolutes and everything, that Obi-Wan's gut instinct was correct, that Anakin really was gone, and all that was left was Darth Vader. And so I think that was really helpful in part of his bereavement process.
Yeah.
To know that he didn't actually kill his friend and his student,
right?
His Padawan, but also that he was justified in the actions that he took.
Yeah, because he goes through this almost three different phases, right? Where for the last 9 years he thinks he killed his friend, and then he realizes that he didn't kill his friend, but he thinks he turned him into this monster, and then he realizes that he didn't even do that. that was Anakin did that himself. You turned her against me. You have done that yourself. Very, very much in that same vein. And so now he has this, like, a weight has been lifted, and he realizes that he, A, didn't kill him, and B, like, didn't turn him into this thing.
But I think what I also like is that the show doesn't. Obi-Wan is a fairly faultless character up to a certain point, unless you like really dredge into like, could he have saved Anakin and stuff like that. But that's not what we're privy to when watching these things.
Sure.
But I liked that that I lost my train of thought.
I like that too.
Yeah, he had that Obi-Wan has this fault, I guess, running through him and his guilt, but also that he actually does give up on his friend, which I find very interesting. That because it's Luke that comes back around and is like, no, there is still good in him, and Obi-Wan's like, there really isn't, my dude. He told me,
yes,
and so I like that. This is not mine. I saw it online. I think I sent it to you. That Obi-Wan, breaks the helmet and tries to reach Anakin and fails. Ahsoka breaks the helmet, the opposite side, weirdly enough, and tries to reach him and fails. And so it's only Luke that takes off his whole helmet and actually reaches his father, which I find extraordinarily powerful.
Very powerful, like a very powerful image and a very powerful outcome that only his son. It really does reinforce like the whole Skywalker saga and the whole Chosen One prophecy and all of that, and how it was a prophecy that misread could have been, and all this stuff. It really does sort of give you that full circle.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Although the way that I have always interpreted that prophecy, which is part of the point of the prophecy, I guess, interpretation, is that Anakin may have dredged in the dark side for a long time, but Vader has a history of having this rebellious undercurrent with the Emperor, right? And because that's who Anakin really is, in of himself. He's a bit of a rebel, and so
that's a different show.
Yes, and so he's always like, oh no, we gotta get Luke to make him be the dark side. He's gonna be great with the two of us, and he's secretly no, we're gonna rule the galaxy together. And so this when Palpatine, I think, doesn't deliver on his promise that he can save Padme, oh no, together we can do it. Anakin or Vader, however you want to refer to him, that's it. They will never actually be simpatico at that point. So there's always this undercurrent, and the Palpatine is always testing him to, to be like, are you really loyal? And so we get that in Episode 6, which was a great Palpatine cameo.
Yes.
And I love that there was thought given to how he would look between Revenge of the Sith.
Yes, because he looks different than Revenge of the Sith, but not quite like he does in Empire.
Yeah. There was some real thought given to that, and I appreciated that. But, he says, oh, no, it's only, I only serve you.
Mm-hmm.
And what a liar. I think I said it out loud when I was watching it.
I have a different point of view. I think so. He believes that he killed Padme, right? Because Palpatine tells him in your anger you killed her. Mm-hmm. So he believes that he did this. So I don't think that he blames the Emperor for that or holds that against the Emperor. I think he really does pledge his loyalty to the Emperor, and I think he means it to a point, as much as any Sith does.
Sure,
and I think it's inevitable that any Sith is always going to eventually try to kill their master, and only two there can be, no more, no less. So I see it a little bit different. I think your point of view is valid, though. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying my interpretation has always been different, and it's interesting actually. I like that interpretation too. But mine was always that he's sincere, and even in this instance, it only makes sense to me for him to be sincere. Otherwise, why would he let Obi-Wan go? Like, why would he leave him out there alive unless he really is like, no, you're right. You know what? I have to be loyal to my master, and Obi-Wan has to mean nothing to me.
Okay, so that's
otherwise he has to kill him. In my view.
So this is where my interpretation of this came from. One,
okay.
I do read the Star Wars. I read the Star Wars comics,
yes.
which I know you don't. But there's arcs, recent art where what's the book, the Sith Lords or something like that, which is also a Star Wars book, in which it's literally just the Emperor testing Vader to make sure that he's still loyal.
Mm-hmm.
There's stories upon stories of him constantly doing that. So there's that groundwork. But I know this is a limited series, but they'd have to be crazy not to. You have bankability with Hayden and Ewan, who are both let's do more. And this is a rap story. However, my interpretation of that reading with the Emperor is Vader being no, me loyal, don't you worry about it. And him being I got to scheme because I got to do, because Vader's always doing his own thing on the side. And so I think you could go in that direction where he's or there's a story to be told in which you see one of the Emperor really trying to test Vader to make sure that that his time with Anakin is done, or his time with Obi-Wan is done.
Yes, yeah, I he's definitely testing him. No question about that. He's definitely testing him because, the way I see it is because he knows that it's only a matter of time before his Padawan turns on him. So he's constantly testing him to keep him, under his control.
Yeah, exactly. And by the time you get to Return of the Jedi, Vader's very explicit. He's it's too late for me, son.
Yeah.
But that's decades of this kind of back and forth torment with Palpatine, I think. And I think Palpatine really does beat him into submission, but we haven't gotten there exactly yet.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It could go either way for me. But the Imperial March, holding off on the Imperial March until that moment, I think was really, really cool.
It gave it so much more significance by waiting until then.
I agree. Although I loved his clanking metal music, it was very. I was going to say George Bernard Shaw. That's not correct.
No.
No. Who's the composer? Huge anti-Semite. Did the Ring Cycle. Vern.
I don't know who you're referring to. The Ring.
The leitmotif guy.
Yes.
All music is now thanks to him.
Wagner.
Wagner. Thank you. It's very Wagner because there's in the Ring Cycle there's the Song of the Dwarves. There's a lot of clanging and banking, and it really reminded me of that. It was very cool. I love that. You say some words.
Can we talk about Reva?
Yes. Is it Reva or Reva?
I've heard both.
Okay.
I think different characters may be pronouncing it differently, actually.
Classic Star Wars movie, if there ever was one.
Yeah, exactly. Han and
the
Han.
Analysis of plans brought to you by Princess Leia.
Yeah, exactly. Leia, Han, Reva.
We're supposed to save Han.
Reva had such a strong story, from the start. The whole idea of, I love the idea of her being a survivor of Order 66, a youngling survivor of Order 66, almost dying at the blade of Anakin himself, and spending years undercover trying to get her revenge on him. I agree. Love that.
I agree. That's a good story. And then losing sight of her goal in a lot of ways, because she really did become consumed by her own hate, but the hate or the way she acted as an Inquisitor is all a show just to get as close as she can to Vader. I thought that was really top notch.
Totally. Totally. That it was starting to come together for me, realizing that now she's chasing a kid the same way that she was targeted, but the way they actually showed, the intercutting between what she's doing, the way she's chasing down Luke, and the way that Vader was mowing down those kids in the Jedi Temple was really powerful. Very, very powerful. I do have a couple of quibbles I was way into the Reva story all the way through 5 episodes, and right at episode 6 is where I started to have some questions about. So now everyone just survives when they get a blade through the stomach. Like,
my wife said the same thing. She was like, "Does anybody die?" Like when
Grand
they get
Inquisitor and her now, like two.
Okay, well, so the Grand Inquisitor has 2 stomachs.
Yes, but if I have to watch Jimmy Kimmel Live to find that out, then I don't. Then like that doesn't count.
You're not a good Star Wars fan, Frank. Like, I don't know what
to
tell
Rupert
you.
Friend went on Jimmy Kimmel Live and explained that his character has 2 stomachs. Fine, but like that's not part of the show. It's just a thing that like they never addressed it. It was just like, yep, his
Frank,
desire for
Darth
revenge. His desire for revenge.
Darth
kept him
Maul
alive.
got literally cut in half. Spinal cord severed.
Yeah.
And he's still literally walking around.
Once is okay. Twice is maybe. 3 times it's like, so do lightsabers just not kill any people anymore? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, they do not.
So anyway, that was one thing, and the other thing,
truthfully, to stick with that for a second, her being stabbed and survive bothered me way more than the Inquisitor because
way more.
Obviously, I know he's going to survive. He's the main
thing.
antagonist in the first season of Rebels.
That's the thing. So, like, I was almost relieved he survived because it was like, okay, so we're not breaking continuity. Okay, fine.
I didn't expect them to. I don't understand why that was a big thing. Like, it's Star Wars. Like, obviously, they're not going to break something that large.
I figured.
Yeah.
But, for a couple episodes there, the question was looming of whether how they were going to reconcile this. So, okay, they fixed that by him being alive, and his rationale being the desire for revenge, gave him the will to live, is what he says.
Sure. Somehow, the Grand Inquisitor survived.
So, yeah, and same with Reva, and it's like, you got sliced, like, basically in half, and you're walking around.
Stabbed.
But, like, yeah.
I mean, people get stabbed and survive. It is possible.
Yes.
But I agree. Her story... her reconciliation story or
her redemption.
Her ways, her redemption story, like chasing Luke and realize, did I become him? The irony of her chasing the son of the very person she like. So like that's, I like that. That's good.
Yes, I do too.
But I agree, like I think her story could have wrapped with her death.
Yeah.
I don't know if she like had to chase Luke or she had to survive or be redeemed. Like I kind of like knowing like revenge gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
Like
I figured that she would end up dying to protect Luke in some way. That's going into this episode, the finale episode, is what I figured was going to happen. The fact that she still is out there makes me wonder, and if there is a season 2, maybe they'll address it. Hopefully they'll address it, or maybe they'll address it in a comic or a novel or something. But I have to wonder. So she's out there, and Luke is out there, and she does she know like who Luke really is?
I don't think so.
That's what I don't know. Yeah. Because if she does, then she just keeps that secret, or like one of the biggest secret in the universe, or
I don't think so. I think she might, because like, but there's no like when Senator Organa sends that message, he's not like, hey, Vader, like Anakin, who is also Darth Vader, his kids, and where they are. Like, he says a lot of information he shouldn't have on what is not an encrypted recording message, but that is not neither here nor there. There is something there that like it's a little ambiguous even as to why she goes after Luke.
Yeah,
like that was the part I didn't. I have to watch it. Maybe I missed something, but like I was like, what? Who cares?
Like what did she piece together for? Like, yes, he said things that were, he said things about the children, whatever.
Yeah,
but whose children? What children? Why do they matter?
Correct.
Why are they important?
The only thing that I connected is that, I think it was either Vader or the Grand Inquisitor says like he was wise to use you. So in her mind, she did get played. And so her revenge is going after this kid who has some connection to Obi-Wan.
Just because he's important to Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I think that's my only read.
That's the only thing that like makes any sense. It's just like, I don't know who this is, but he matters to Obi-Wan, so I'm going to get back at him that way. But how does she figure out that Owen is involved? Because when she goes back, she remembers Owen. She goes back to Tatooine and she's asking
she
about
says
Owen.
Owen is on the message from
Okay,
Bail.
okay, fair.
Yeah, that's one of the things that comes through.
Okay, that makes sense.
Tatooine, Owen. What I did like about that, apart from like all right, you're chasing him. Obviously, Luke's going to be fine. There wasn't tons of tension. I know they all survive. And so it's more of a how than a why, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But what I did really like about that is giving some really good texture to Owen and Beru.
Beru is such a badass.
She is a badass, and there she is, just with her little like Instant Pot in like A New Hope, or whatever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I loved that. I love adding that dimension, and like it makes sense, right? Like they're like frontier people. Of course, she would be able to like hold her own.
Totally, yeah. Like Tusken Raiders and like all this stuff. Like absolutely, and I like it's her. I like that it's her and not him. And he's like, okay, because he's the gruff and whatever one, but he's just a freaking big softy.
Yeah.
Where he's like, you know, like under his breath, like, I will, and you know, he is my son, and like, because you like that really adds a lot of texture to like, I really need you on the farm. It's just one more season. You like actually really loves Luke and doesn't want to see him go because that's his boy,
and he doesn't want to say it. He's using the farm as the excuse, because that's the kind of guy he is. He's just that like Depression era, I'm never going to tell you I love you, right?
Kind of love, right? You're just going to have to know because I need you around,
right?
I love that. I was totally into that.
100%.
I saw an interview with Deborah Chow, and she was like, all I have to say is thank you, George Lucas, for casting Joel Edgerton as Owen. And I said, I can't agree more, because I love Joel Edgerton. He is one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. He is top-notch, and he's just not that I want to watch an entire show with Owen and Beru or whatever, but like, he like that could have been a nothing role and a nothing part, and he really got me. And like and I understood him with him doing and saying very little. And so even for him at the very end to be like, Ben, do you want to meet him? Like, how big of a deal that is.
It's huge.
Because it was great. Yeah, that was worth it for me.
Especially because at the beginning of that very conversation, he's like, I thought you were going to go back into hiding. You know?
Right.
And then by the end of the conversation, he's like, all right, come on, you want to meet him? Like, let's go. And that's where, and you know, you figured that had to happen at some point. I just didn't know if we would see it in the show. But you figure he had to meet Luke at some point because Luke knows him, right? He's like, oh, I wonder if he means old Ben. Like, he knows who Ben is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he just doesn't see him a lot. It's not like he like comes around for Thanksgiving dinner or whatever.
Sure, but he's like the local neighborhood, old wizard, whatever. Like,
exactly.
he knows who he is at least.
Yeah, actually, in that scene, obviously we get the hello there, which is great. But to me, what I loved about that more than anything, it was like Obi got his groove back.
Yeah,
like, that was saying hello there, because we get a hello in episode 3. We get it in episode 3
with Grievous.
Like, with Grievous. No. Sorry, I meant
episode 3 of the show.
Of the show.
Well, no, we didn't get a hello there until.
No, we didn't. We got a hello.
Oh, yes.
Which I thought was really important. Where it's like, Uncle say hello, or Father say hello. Hello.
Yes.
And I just really liked that, because the there is him fully comfortable in himself.
Yes.
You have to be like fully with yourself to be like, hello there.
So much. And maybe this is how we can start talking about the Vader showdown, because so much of him becoming himself again stems from that final confrontation with Vader. It's after that confrontation that he's got the hello there. It's after that confrontation that he is able to see Qui-Gon. Like, all these things, like his powers are at full force. Even Vader says, like, oh, your powers are back, or something, something to that to that extent. Like, all of that is because of this. It forces him, it pulls him back to like tap back into the Force in a way that he hasn't done in 9 years.
Yes, exactly. And he wants to. He says in episode 3, I think it is 3 or 4, Leia asks him, what's it like?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about it being light and comfort, and like turning on a light when it's dark out, and like all this stuff. So like, he wants to, like, he's not angry at the Force. It's not like Luke, where he wants nothing to do with any of it, and he's like tapping himself out because he's trying to discontinue the Jedi. That's not like, Obi-Wan's tragedy is himself, that he does not believe in himself. It has nothing to do with his connection to the Force.
Yeah, because I don't think he's completely shut off from the Force like Luke did. Like, Luke was, like, offline.
No, because he can't, because one day he has to train Luke.
Yes.
So he knows that it's not a, like, I can't disconnect from the Force. It's just a belief in himself kind of thing.
It's like a low power mode until he's ready to boot it back up, right?
Exactly.
Where Luke in The Last Jedi is like, nope, we shut the thing down. Like, he is offline. You couldn't find him. If you were a Force user, you wouldn't be able to sense his presence because he's that disconnected from it. But Obi-Wan is like just keeping it like just barely alive, like low power standby mode.
Yep.
But by the end of this show, it seems like to me, he is while he's not flaunting who he is, he's also not really like that concerned about staying completely, like he's not living in that cave anymore. He's not completely hiding out like he was, because he knows that Vader's not really chasing him anymore. And I think he's sort of able to sort of live his life quietly, but not completely hidden like he had been for the last 9 years.
Yep, I agree. And to me, there is this conversation that he has with Bale where he says, if you ever need me, you know where to find me. And yeah, that's A New Hope,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
But is it more than that?
Right.
Because in Rogue One, they're like, what about your Jedi friend?
Mm-hmm.
Like what Mon Mothma is like, what about your Jedi friend? Does Obi-Wan have further adventures? Because he says to Owen, you're right, Luke just needs to be a boy. The future will take care of itself. Right, there's great trust in the Force at that moment,
for sure.
Right there, the opportunity will arise when it is the right time, because the Force wills it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's Obi-Wan's line in the sand at Tatooine, and so that leaves him the opportunity to go help more people if the need arises.
Yes.
Not that he'll always be away, because his job is still to protect Luke, but he knows that Owen and Beru can take care of him,
right?
To the best of their ability, and that's big for Obi-Wan as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of trust issues resolved here, and so as I say, if they want to do more, there is that opportunity to tell a new adventure.
They did a really nice job. Like, they wrapped it up. It was a very satisfying ending. They can just leave it there, and it would be a very satisfying ending, and you feel like, okay, yeah, like I understand where there's some gaps there, but like, I can fill in the gaps in my mind of like what he said after hello there, and how his conversation with Qui-Gon is going to go. Like, you can imagine that stuff and be perfectly satisfied with it. But they could also fill in more of the gaps in a season 2 if they want to. So like they did a really nice job where it could go either way, and I'd be happy either way.
Yes, I think ultimately happier to see more, just because.
Yeah, and I think that's where they're going to go. I think
this was really well done. Your stars want to come back.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like,
and there's been so much in terms of like rumors or speculation in the last several weeks. It's really been heating up, and I have to think that's sort of the Lucasfilm PR machine firing up to sort of put out feelers and see if there's demand for it. And I think it's fair to say that there is demand.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the review bombing, which I hate review bombing.
Oh my god, so dumb.
Between the racism and the sexism and the misogyny and like all these different things that make the bomb, or like the continuity thing, like you killed the Grand Inquisitor, half a star.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Why don't you just finish the show before you decide anything?
So dumb.
But
and
anyway,
I just want to say, like for the record, if it's not clear already, like Beer with Geeks disavows that the racism, misogyny, all of it, everything that Moses Ingram had to endure, like all of it, like F that. She does not deserve that. She was amazing.
Ewan McGregor in his video that he put out with his message, he said, "You're no Star Wars fan."
Yeah,
like, and to me, and I that's exactly what it is. Like, you're not paying attention to what Star Wars is. If any of those things are in your mind and bother you, you have no idea what Star Wars is about.
Mm-hmm.
None whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yes, like the kid is Blair is a child. You know, yeah, she, so her acting is not Oscar caliber.
Yeah, she's a 10-year-old. Like, she acts like a 10-year-old.
Exactly. There's a reason that Reva is acting over the top, and all over the place, and the story gives you that.
Yes. By
the end of the show, so why don't you just lay off until the show's over? Anyway, that's the soapbox over.
Yes.
But there's a couple of I want to say callbacks, but like Star Wars is like poetry. It rhymes.
It rhymes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and I thought that Obi-Wan did an excellent job at giving some of that texture here.
Yeah.
Give weight to. I mean, I think there's a mandate at Lucasfilm to be like, you have to make the sequels better by doing stuff in the original trilogy era, in the Imperial era. So
add weight to the sequels, like make them have more impact.
Correct. So I loved the ironic, the Force isn't just about lifting rocks, and we literally get rocks and mountains thrown at each other. I thought that was wonderful from Last Jedi. But the one that really got me, which tied in everything, was Vader's "You didn't do this. I killed Anakin Skywalker," and because one that ties to the original trilogy, like he hunted down and he killed he betrayed
and murdered your father.
Your father. What I told you was true from a certain point of view.
It's literally what Vader told him.
That point of view is actually Vader's. It's not even Obi-Wan's.
Right.
So that he subscribes to. So I like that. But it actually reminded me of The Force Awakens when Han calls out Ben, and they have this conversation, and he says, "No, my son is that means nothing to me. No, my son is alive." And he says, "He was weak and foolish, so I destroyed him." That's the same thing.
Yes.
And I loved that so much because that's what the dark side does. It destroys your previous self. Unless you really want to buy into that in a different way, but the people the people who's become somebody new, right? Or that they were weak and foolish, so I destroyed them, so I killed them. They didn't really, right?
Yeah.
Vader didn't really. Ben Solo didn't really, and so there's something really powerful about being I killed this other, and I am this new person now. And no, you're not. You're just trying on a new personality and wearing baggy jeans and mascara, but you're not really. That's not really who you are.
Yeah.
And I thought that was I thought that was particularly well done if you were paying attention. Yeah.
Yep.
That was.
Yeah. There were a lot of moments like that, varying degrees of obviousness, right? I saw lots of things online showing, Leia's outfits throughout this series matched a lot of her outfit, or were reminiscent of her outfits from the original trilogy. But
even how the episodes model themselves.
Yes.
Because, the first episode is Obi-Wan on a desert planet, Tatooine specifically, in both of them. Number 2 is Obi-Wan solving mysteries in the big city.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is a clash with Anakin.
Where one of them catches fire.
Actually, I really like that because it gave you a little bit of okay, he's getting older. Get you to episode 4 kind of where he's not fighting well at all, really. Which I want to come back to with that too. And then number 4 is Obi-Wan infiltrates an Imperial base.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 is the Empire attacks a rebel holdout like Hoth, and the rebels escape. And then number 6 is that there's a Vader fight again, but Vader is defeated and does that wheezing, breathing thing.
Yeah.
Which you only get in this and Jedi.
Sure. Yeah. No, it really is. It is like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah. It's
sure.
It's and there's more to it. There's Anakin and Leia. This was brought to our attention by our friend Andrew, but Anakin and Leia being "Will I ever see you again?" That's a nice.
She says it almost exact with the same intonation that Jake Lloyd said it in Phantom Menace. It's really pitch perfect.
on purpose. And I don't know if this is a rhyme necessarily, but so when Vader buries Obi-Wan under a bunch of rocks and mountains and whatever else, and so like, because he like tried fire, he's like, I'm going to kill you the way that I'm going to make you suffer the way that I suffered, and here's the fire, and that didn't necessarily work. Episode 3 and 3, but he says Master to Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah,
he's like, you think that you could kill me or destroy me, whatever, defeat me, Master. And then Obi-Wan comes back and kicks his ass.
Yeah.
So then you skip forward to A New Hope, and he says, when I left you, I was but the learner, but now I am the master.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so originally, that didn't exactly fit with Episode 3, but in my mind, I'm like, I freaking learned from my mistake. Like, I was still learning. I left you buried under a bunch of rocks, and I am not doing that this time.
Right. I'm going to finish what I started this time.
Yeah, you're getting stabbed, son.
Yeah.
Like, that's,
yeah.
I like that. I like that learning from his...
It does. It adds weight to that line and to Vader's point of view, and it also adds weight to Obi-Wan's point of view, because where Vader's like, all right, so this I'm going to finish the job. I'm going to chop you in half, and Obi-Wan's like, go ahead and do it. I've learned from Qui-Gon now, so like, go ahead, do it. Like they've both grown, and Obi-Wan is still like 3 steps ahead of Vader in a way that Vader doesn't realize.
Yep, because it goes back to the Episode 5 flashback.
Yes,
the best,
so good.
But the where he's like, your need to win and to be showy and like all these things like that is your downfall, and it is consistently his downfall.
Yep.
Even like there's that meme with the Grand Inquisitor and Vader in Episode 6 where like, are we going to chase these people fleeing us? Like, no, we're going to go after this one Jedi.
Yeah,
take all the firepower and go here. And he's like,
seriously?
Okay, like that's because Vader does not. Anakin is really not a tactician. Like,
no.
he's not. He's a brute force, and I just really like that there was actual real forethought to that, going all the way back to Phantom Menace when he's just like, Qui-Gon told me to stay in this cockpit, and that's what I'm going to do.
It's very consistent. Like, he is very consistently, when he's ruled by his passions, not by his brain. You know, like, no, I'm going to get my revenge on Obi-Wan. We're going over there. Like, he is ruled by his passions to all the way through. All the way through.
Do you I don't know about you, but I found that this was the first time that I truly felt that I was watching Anakin Skywalker be Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Like, like you kind of like know that Anakin is Darth Vader in the original trilogy because like you're going backwards, and like he's Darth Vader in the suit for a whole minute in Revenge of the Sith. But this is like and Rogue One, he's like Vader.
Yeah,
you know,
full on Vader.
But this is because they're referring to things from the past, and like all the like there's like it, and maybe because I know that Hayden Christensen is in the suit, but like it really felt to me like they were one cohesive character for really the first time.
I would agree with that. I would say this adds color to Revenge of the Sith. At the end of Revenge of the Sith, like when he goes to the Jedi Temple during Order 66, he's not in the suit yet, but he's Darth Vader.
Yep,
right.
That's right. Yeah.
He's got the Sith eyes and everything. Right. He is Darth Vader. Palpatine has already named him.
He
Vader.
Does not have the Sith eyes
in the temple.
He doesn't get that until he goes to Mustafar when he does the turnaround to the camera.
No, he doesn't turn around the camera in the temple. When he's walking into the temple with the troopers.
I will name my second child. This is not a baby announcement, but I will name my second child after you, whether it's a boy or girl, if I am wrong or right. I like your name, so whatever. So but it's a nice name. My Pepe was Frank.
I feel I'm like pretty confident that
should we use our one lookup?
Yeah.
I'm really positive his eyes are not Sith-like because, and I feel this way because, one, I know that Mustafar scene is where he turns around and looks at the camera and they're all bedazzled, in the Sith way. But all these flashback scenes with Order 66 and Anakin in the temple, like his eyes are natural as they come.
They are yes, they are in this for sure. They are, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty positive He does not have those Sith eyes yet.
I'm like so positive that it's when he goes to the temple that he turns around. He's like walking in. I can picture it. He's walking in with all those
I know
troopers,
exactly what scene you're talking about.
And he turns and looks at the
shot.
camera, and you see the eyes.
Nope. No, that turn and look is on Mustafar.
All right.
Almost
Well,
positive.
I'm gonna find it, but
just type in Order 66 on YouTube. It'll show up.
I mean, like I agree with you. His eyes did turn yellow when he.
Oh, I know that you know that Mustafar scene also happened. Like, I know that.
Yeah. Like, and his eyes were yellow when he's yelling, like, I hate you and all that stuff.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah, because they weren't consistently Sith-like even on Mustafar. It's only
right.
It's really in that moment he kills the Trade Federation guys, and then when he yells, "I hate you," those are the times.
Sure. Yeah.
Speaking of Mustafar and everything, while you're looking that up, though, I loved seeing Vader at basically the peak of his Vaderness.
Yeah.
Because when we saw Rogue One, we were like, this is why people were afraid of Vader. And then you see this, you're like, no, this is why
he
people
tears
were
a ship out of the sky and rips it open.
Oh, it was amazing. But even that, he just kills people random, like he's like a serial killer. He's like an 80s serial killer, like a Mike Myers or a Jason or whatever. He's just this force that comes in and destroys. But I loved watching him. I loved who he gave his time to. He fights Obi-Wan with the Force and one-handed, barely trying in the first fight. He doesn't even bother to take out his lightsaber when he fights Reva.
Right.
He uses hers and the Force, which was amazing. And then he tries fighting Obi-Wan with one hand at first, and then about a minute or so into the fight, he moves to two because he knows he can't handle fighting him with one hand, just like fighting Luke in Empire Strikes Back. He fights him with one hand.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically playing with him, and then he realizes, oh, I actually can't do that.
Right.
But obviously his the helmet gets slashed open and he gets really injured in this episode in the sixth episode, and I like that we know that his injuries, because the way that the show starts with him in the back to tank, and you can feel how oppressive the suit is and how he has to live and everything, and so by the time that A New Hope arrives, he's really waning. He's not the Vader that we know. From here, and I think I thought that was very well done, because in my mind, in A New Hope, the fight doesn't go anywhere, my headcanon, because Obi-Wan is now basically just toying with him, because Obi-Wan expects to die. He expects to join the Force in that moment, so he's actually just distracting Vader. It's not their reconfrontation. They had that already.
Sure.
So Obi-Wan, it's just Darth Vader. Anakin is no more. So he is just there because he knows what Vader can do. So he is just there to distract Vader to make sure that Han, Luke, and Leia escape. And so that where he's just pew, 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 and he backs away.
Yeah.
He's not really engaging with Vader.
That's a very interesting insight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to sit with that now.
I like that. I like that. I like that as a headcanon.
Thank you. Because then you see what Vader can do in his older age, with all his injuries really mounting by Episode 5 and 6.
Sure. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
When he fights Luke, so, yeah.
All right, I've got the scene pulled up.
Okay.
Where he's about to walk into the Jedi Temple. Oh, you can't see this, can you? Okay, my screen share isn't going to let.
Oh, because it's Disney Plus.
Yeah. So I can't show it
that's
to
why
you.
That's why I said do YouTube, because I would be able to watch it on.
I just couldn't find the clip on YouTube, so I thought this would be faster.
Okay. That's okay.
But
what is the timestamp?
Sure.
On that, because I'll pull it up on my phone.
Sure.
And just hold it to the screen.
Sure. Okay, that works. Let me know when you've got it pulled up. Because I
haven't pulled up.
Okay, great. It's 1 hour, 19 minutes. And
okay. Do what must be done.
oh, wait a second. You know what? Here, I've got it.
Okay.
So yeah, let's watch this. Let's watch this together. So
Okay. Hear the moment of truth, everybody.
all right, so we're watching the scene where he's walking in to the temple.
Yep.
We're seeing the temple.
Temple's beautiful.
Temple's beautiful.
It's
Here
great.
come a bunch of
Great
clone
design.
troopers.
Yep, man, that still looks pretty good.
It
I gotta
looks
say.
it looks pretty decent. Yeah, here comes
Yeah.
Anakin walking up the steps.
Here he comes, walking up the steps, coming to
He's
kill
walking in.
all
He's
the
being
younglings.
followed. Yeah,
Nice bird's
beautiful
eye view shot of
Yep,
Anakin
shaft
walking
of
into
light.
the temple. There he is.
There he is.
Looking damn fine, Anakin Skywalker.
Okay, we've switched over to where the
Back to Geonosis.
or
No,
Utapau.
not Geonosis, Utapau. That was it almost took away my Star Wars fandom.
Wrong movie.
Terrible.
Okay, so we've got Palpatine issuing Order 66 to all the clone troopers on Utapau, and they're turning on Obi-Wan, and now my YouTube is buffering.
But that's
this is
okay.
great radio.
I'm just going to riff until you get back because I don't want to edit any of this out. So anyway, I think that I'm correct. I don't know about you. No, of course you think that I'm correct, dear listener. But if I'm not, then we're all wrong here. If I'm not correct, then we're all wrong because the listeners are with me.
You seem pretty confident about that.
Yes, I am. All right. Going to try again now that Frank has returned.
Yes.
I just riffed. I'm not cutting any of this out, Frank.
That's fine. Okay, we're just watching all of Order 66 play out. Where's the actual, like...
It's so upsetting. Great Order 66 scenes, honestly.
Oh, my gosh. So many good ones.
So many. And I know that you know, but do you know that the Jedi teacher in the first scene of Kenobi episode, the first episode, that was Deborah Chow, the director and showrunner. Cool. Yeah, which I thought was very cool. Very cool. Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
This poor kid.
I love that they took a picture together years later. Regular eyes.
Yeah, regular eyes here. Yep, for sure.
Regular eyes.
All right, I guess. But so then so that scene where he turns around is you're saying it's on Mustafar?
It's on Mustafar. That's the one you were thinking of. The one like where it's like he's got a hood and he turns around. That one.
Yeah, I've got the screenshot of it.
Yep, that's Mustafar.
Okay.
That's after he kills everybody on Mustafar.
Oh, is it after he kills the Nemoidians in that?
Yes.
In that, oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm okay. Yeah. You were right. So you're right.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the video of it, but I will concede this one. All right. So I guess you're not naming your kid after me.
I mean, I still can if you want.
I mean,
to,
you know, you do what you want to do.
That's a nice name.
That's between you and your wife, but
that's true.
All right.
That's true.
Well, that's settled.
It is settled. Okay, so Obi-Wan Kenobi. I got to go back to my notes. There was lots of Alderaan, Frank, and every time you show up, and I'm like, it actually like adds to me real weight when the planet gets blown up in A New Hope. So I was a big fan of that. Fan of that.
Yep.
Tiny thing. Imperial sympathizers who buy into the Order, the Zach Braff character. I loved that because they're like, it's not because if it was everybody against the Empire, there'd be a lot more rebels.
Yeah, absolutely. They would have like mutinied a long time ago, right? Like
exactly.
Totally. There has to be some people who are like, no, it's great. The trains run on time. You know, like that has to.
Exactly.
That happens under any fascist regime. Like
exactly because there were definitely people in Italy that were like, but the trains were running on time.
Yes, there absolutely were.
Yeah. So like
yes.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah.
Make tea with him. It's no big deal. As far as new characters go, I really liked Tala a lot.
Yeah, she was great. And now, does that holster that ended up going to Leia? Does that holster show up in the original trilogy?
I want to say that's the one that she has in Return of the Jedi.
Is it okay?
But I'm not positive. I'm not positive about that. But I feel like it'd be too much to not be her actual holster, like to just be like, I have this holster and I mark things and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden it becomes Leia's and she wears it, and that's just not gonna be hers. Like, it's just too much,
right?
To not actually be hers.
They made too big a deal of it for it not to have some significance later on. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of significance and making a thing of something, Lola was just everywhere.
Oh man,
in this thing, and I'm like, cute droid. It's got to happen. Have a cute droid. Here's Lola.
Yep.
Which I liked. That was named for Carrie Fisher's pet parrot when she was a kid.
Is that where the name came from?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, which I think
that.
is really cool. It's actually a great picture of her as a kid with Lola, and you could be like, oh my gosh, look at that kid and look at that kid. It's pretty fun.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff, Frank. One last thing.
Sure.
So Leia, in her recording to Obi-Wan in A New Hope, I didn't realize this until after, because we're talking about, the internet has been talking about it for weeks when she shouts, "Ben Kenobi, where is he?" She knows where that is, but obviously she knows he's also Obi-Wan by the end of the show.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right. So why? So my wife asked why is her message so cold to him? Where does that where would you retcon that basically? And I said, well, she's a diplomat, so I think she's being diplomatic in case something I think that's partly where it comes from. Look how much I've grown up. I'm this, but she doesn't introduce herself in that message.
Oh, that's true.
She does not say, General Kenobi, I am Princess Leia Organa. General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone War.
Right.
He knows who that is. She knows that he knows. There's something really there's something really subtle there.
That's true.
About her it's like her diplomat version.
Yeah.
But look how much I've grown up. But yeah.
No, you're right though, because when she doesn't introduce herself, she just years ago you fought with my father. So she assumes that you know who she is and that you know who her father is.
Correct.
Right?
Right. Yeah, she never says the Organas.
Right.
Ever.
Never says Bail Organa's name, just doesn't say her name, just yeah, no, valid. That is a good reading of that. Yeah.
So I'm on board for that. Actually, if you go back and watch that scene, look at Alec Guinness's face right after the transmission is over. It's because he's such a good actor, you can read into a bunch of stuff, but there's a little I know.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there's some great stuff.
I like it.
We didn't even talk about Fallen Order. The Inquisitors.
Oh yeah.
There's their Fortress Inquisitorius or whatever it's called. It's good stuff. I got really jazzed seeing the Grand Inquisitor and Vader in the same shot multiple times.
Oh yeah,
that was just bridging a world for me. It's not enough to see them in live action, but seeing all of that coalesce together is just really, really wonderful. It's good stuff. And his Obi-Wan's outfit at the very end is straight out of comics, straight out of, and I think old concept art of Obi-Wan Kenobi with goggles and the rifle and the way that his
yes
his robe is sleeveless, that's all. There's a hot toy of that exact outfit, but Alec Guinness's head from years ago.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so
that's very cool.
Get them and get that one, and you could swap it out for Obi-Wan and the Ewan McGregor anytime you want.
Nice. That's really neat. I need to find that.
That was a nice Easter egg. Yeah.
Overall, man, I really loved this show. I really enjoyed it. I would be very happy to see another season of it. I would be okay with it if we don't get one. They tied it up nicely, but I would love to see another season of it.
Me too. And the way that I have 3 versions, I would love to see another version where many of these characters come back.
Sure.
I would love to see one where Obi-Wan has separate adventures without these characters. That'd be fine with me as well. And I would love to watch a Darth Vader show.
I would too. I absolutely would too.
Truthfully, I think this was Hayden's best work as the character.
Yes.
Because they used Respeechify.
Oh, yes. I wanted to bring this up. Yes. Yeah,
it's the same tech that they use for Luke.
Right.
And I actually learned how it worked. I don't know if I saw an interview with the creator, and it's like they use the cadence of the performance of the actor,
right?
And that's how the computer learns. So it's not just like I type in words and it chooses. So when they have Mark Hamill be Luke Skywalker, that is how he's choosing to deliver the lines.
Right. It's like performance capture, like Andy Serkis did for Gollum, right? Like they capture the movements and translate that into a digital character. But with this, they capture the inflections of the voice and translate it into a different voice.
Correct, exactly. And I think it's less awkward for Vader because you're not trying to match lips. Like
right.
Absolutely.
It's
just the mask, so you don't really have to worry about that. But I thought his performance was out of this world.
Incredible.
Not only just like as Vader himself, like he really understood his own character and the way that Vader moves, the moves that Anakin has. Because I think he obviously watched enough of Vader, to play Anakin to be like, all right, well, how's Anakin also going to move? So,
yes.
But I would watch more Vader in a second.
Yes, yeah, and I love that. Like now, James Earl Jones is God love him, he's still with us, but he does in Rogue One, he doesn't quite sound the same, right? And
no, he doesn't.
In Rebels, he doesn't quite sound the same. Because
his line in Rise of Skywalker, he sounds
old. He sounds like a man in his 70s, 80s, depending on which.
90, no, he's
91. Now, but at the time he was 70 something in Revenge of the Sith.
In Revenge of the Sith, yeah, and even then he still
he sounded older.
He sounded older,
but here,
Padme,
yes, but here he sounded like 1980. Empire Strikes Back, like not a day has passed. Like he sounded exactly. And somebody pointed out
they went with the the Empire Jedi sound instead of the New Hope Vader.
Sound. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody pointed out that if they needed, where would they have sourced all that stuff from? Somebody pointed out that he did read the entire King James version of the Bible at one point. So there's a wealth of audio for you right there.
True. Well, they could take any movie that he's been in, any filmed play, audiobooks, like you said.
Exactly. So much
Dune audiobook. Like there's tons and tons of work to pull from, which is maybe why even maybe his sounds a little better than Mark Hamill's, because Mark's got obviously tons of work too, but so much of it is larger than life character work. So but either way, it was just a delight, the whole thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I feel honestly I haven't been this satisfied in a Star Wars product since
presence I've not felt since.
No, but really, because even the prequels when I was a kid, everyone kind of left you wanting for some things.
Sure.
And I left this one, I'm like, I don't want for anything. Literally got everything that I wanted and more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt very satisfied in the end. So
yeah,
I'm just I feel more satisfied with this than I have in a long time with anything from Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm just
maybe Mando season 2 is probably as close as
I would agree. Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this is different because it's characters that I've already attached to for the most part.
Yes.
So yeah, some good stuff. But Frank, this is a very long episode, and so let us depart, but tell us where the people can find us.
You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com. You can find all of our various Star Wars episodes, including our commentaries on all the Star Wars movies, over at beerwithgeeks.com. If you just use the search feature, you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can subscribe or follow us on any of those podcast apps as well. You can support us at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio, and help us to keep making these podcasts, cover all the costs that it requires.
Yes, very good, Frank. Well, it's always a pleasure to talk Star Wars with you. I will do it anytime, any day, anywhere. But until next time, cheers.